Dzień dobry. Witam bardzo, bardzo serdecznie. Nazywam się Małgorzata
Hello
Wochowska.
and welcome. My name is Małgorzata Wochowska. I'm a member of the association Łódzkie Dziewuchy Dziewuchom and an activist of Dziewuch Berlin. We are very happy to have been able to organize this kind of panel. I'd like to thank the Freedom Games for allowing us to choose the best of the best, the activist, female politicians that work in different countries for the benefit of female rights and LGBT. You are just wonderful. I'm so excited to have this kind of panel. I've met many of you. I've had a chance to live in many countries. I know how you operate. I've been watching you. After the so-called tribunals, constitutional tribunals injunctions, your activities are even stronger. I'll be trying to speak slower because the panel is being interpreted into English, because I want the interpreters to be able to follow us, because not only Poles are watching us. I know that there are people living in different countries who are watching us. You work in Dublin, Paris, Strasbourg, Brussels, Berlin. I'm saying hello to Łódź Dziewuchy. Polish diaspora is fourth group of emigration in the world after Chinese, Italian, something between 12 and 15 million, 130,000 people in Ireland. 130,000 people, I'm addressing you. These are the people who have indicated Polish language as the first language they've been using at home. 100,000 Poles in Berlin, people of Polish origin. Brussels, 20,000 people. So there are lots of us. There are lots of female activists. We've seen it recently in the protests. Not only did we see them in Europe, but also in the USA, in Australia. I am really proud. I'm full of admiration. Being myself a Pole who keeps staying in Poland, I know that their activities may not be understood. So the question is, why do you do that, even though you are not living in Poland any longer? Let us understand us, you as the activist and Euro MPs. We have two EMPs, Dr. Sylwii Spurek and Terry Reintke, the German representative. This is what we are going to start with, your Brussels perspective. Would you please tell us, being EMPs, what is the basis of your activities in the Parliament? What do you pay special attention to Poland? What do you want to convey? What kind of message to the international years? What is your motivation? What kind of activities do you do? What do you do? Why do you do it? I'd like to start with Terry Reintke. Terry, you've been with us for years. With your help, we've been able to enter European Parliament sessions in Brussels and to join sessions in Strasbourg. We know how active you've been in the FEM committee on equality of ladies. So would you please tell us, what is your focus at the moment? Why have you been so very much involved into the issues happening in Poland? Why you communicate to the world, to the Europeans, what's been happening in Poland? The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Gosha. And first of all, thank you for organizing this amazing panel. I can only echo what you have been saying. So many people that some of you I have already met in person, some of you not, but super inspiring and super empowering. So I'm really, really happy to be here. And let me start by saying, I think it's really important, because I come from feminist activism myself, that in these struggles that we see in Poland right now, we really see that, feminism knows no borders, that basically this is something that goes across Europe and actually across the world. I have just recently seen images from Bali, I think, where, they had some solidarity action with the women and the LGBTI activists in Poland. So I really think that this shows it. And let me maybe say that I think that why it is so important for me also, I mean, not coming from Poland, not being Polish, because I think what is happening in Poland right now is just the tip of an iceberg of a general backlash that we are seeing on women's rights, on LGBTI rights, on minority rights, and maybe a sort of authoritarian restructuring of liberal democracies, of open democracies. And this is why I think obviously it first and foremost concerns Polish people and people in Poland, but not only. This is really a struggle that goes across Europe and also across the world. So I think it's important that we work on this together. And you have asked me what we are doing in the European Parliament. A lot of memories come up when you were saying, you know, the actions we had in Strasburg and in Brussels. And I think what we always wanted to do is to be a platform for activists, to use the European Parliament to enforce already existing networks, already existing cooperation exchanges, to make it visible. But obviously, we also want to see political action, because what is happening in Poland right now has been met, I believe, with a lot of reluctance and reservations also from European institutions, especially European governments and the European Commission, and we want to see more action there. You know, there is an Article 7 procedure vis-à-vis Poland at the moment, which is only focusing on the independence of the judiciary, which is really important. But we can see, especially now also with this ruling of the so-called Constitutional Court, that it's very closely linked to fundamental rights. And this is why we always want to have fundamental rights also covered in these kind of procedures, because these two aspects are absolutely crucially linked. The second thing that I believe is very important, we have ongoing infringement procedures against Poland because of this justice reform, again in quotation marks. And I think that there the Commission has done something, but certainly not enough. And we are pushing as a European Parliament for the Commission to show more action there, because we can see right now with the aspect of the abortion law, but also when we look at the LGBTI ideology-free zones and many other things, that the situation is really deteriorating, and that we have to do more in order to make it stop. And then a last, maybe a little bit technical issue. We have just recently, had a breakthrough in terms of conditionalizing EU funding to rule of law and fundamental rights. And this is obviously crucial. And I just want to say that there are, I think, a lot of myths going around when it comes to this, that, you know, governments who are breaking rule of law cannot distribute funding anymore. And there are two very important points, I believe. First of all, what we have to do, obviously, is to set a strong signal vis-a-vis the governments, but these kind of instruments can never punish the final beneficiaries. So, for example, NGOs that are fighting for rule of law, democracy, women's rights, LGBTI rights in Poland, the parliament has made that absolutely clear. And in this deal, this is also present. And I think that the second thing that is important is that obviously this is just one of the instruments that we need to use in order to stand up for rule of law and fundamental rights vis-a-vis Poland. We need to see more action both from the Commission as well as from the governments. And let me end by saying this. I mean, we can talk about a lot of legal instruments that we have, what we need to do. I believe what is greatly important is the solidarity to support organizations, to support activists on the ground. I can tell you that here in Brussels, and I guess that Sylvia will hear similar things, a lot of the MEPs from the ruling party, they keep telling us, well, what you are saying, this is just, you know, Western thinking. This is not really what the women and the people in Poland want. You don't understand Poland. And then we can show them very clearly, you know, these thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of people in the street, and that what they are saying are actually lies, and that it's nonsense, that this is not what the people in Poland want, that the people in Poland are resisting this kind of authoritarian restructuring of the society. And I believe that that is why it's important that we keep in touch, that we work together, and that we do everything we can from the European Parliament to support the very important work that you are doing. And I can only tell you that me and also Sylvia, with a lot of other colleagues, will continue to do so in the European Parliament and beyond. Thank you very much for organizing this, and I hope that we stay in touch on all possible channels. Actually, I was planning to come to Poland in the beginning of December. This will unfortunately not be possible because of Corona. And I mean, to have digital and virtual meetings, it's great, but I hope that at some point we will also able to meet each other again in person. Thank you so much.
Dziękuję, Terry. I bardzo dziękuję, że podkreślasz ten element.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you very much for stressing this divergence in the government's voice, government's opinion. They don't take care of ladies' rights. We call a spade, the gay government that hates women. And on the other hand, the general society, the civic society wants something different, as it has been indicated by the research and the attitudes towards liberalization of abortion rights. Not only do you speak to the official representatives of the government, being the parliament, but also activists, male and females, and organizations. Thank you very much. And now the floor goes to Dr. Sylwia Spurek. Would you please present this perspective of Vice President of the committee, FEM? Would you please tell us about the initiative that is targeted at the Commission? Hello to everybody. I'd like to express my gratitude for inviting me to this panel and organizing it. Let me refer to the title of the panel and the thing that you have decided to discuss in the course of this meeting, because it is important to show the people who operate in Poland and outside, who've been involved, who've been motivated and consequent. I'm lucky enough to have dealt with women's rights for 21 years. I started as a lawyer in an NGO. This is where I offered my counseling. It was feminism in an active way, in a formal or legal way, ever since the beginning of my activities. After that, I was working with the legislator. I was writing bills for Ms. Jaroga-Nowacka, the first draft of Anti-Violence Act, which was very much diminished because the left-wing government was unable to accept some solutions which protected ladies who suffered from violence in the families. For many years, I was working at a university and I defended my PhD thesis on isolation of the perpetrator, because the safety and security is of utmost importance here. Being the deputy of an ombudsman in Poland, I was into monitoring, recommending, appealing, intervening. Last but not least, I decided to be more efficient as a politician. This is why I entered the world of politics. So this is my perspective, being an MP, who is partially in Brussels, Warsaw, Poznań, because there is my EMP office in Poznań. I involve in specific activities related to this very issue. I'm going to speak about it in a minute, but before that, let me indicate that the situation we're in, how easy it is to deprive ladies of their rights, and how much the rights in the two areas are of key importance. Violence against women, as well as reproductive rights and health. Speaking about the European Union, in our assessment, to our liking, equality is a part of the European Union policy. Yes, indeed, it is. It should be. Is it possible to have equality without the access to legal and safe abortion? Certainly not. And women suffer from these limitations, especially these that are well off, that suffer from disabilities, that live in the rural areas, that are unemployed, that are immigrants. So if the women are devoid of their rights, their situation deteriorates even further. So there is another question that I wish to pose myself when getting ready for this panel. Whether abortion as such is the European Union competence. As such, it is not. But the question may be posed differently. Should it be the competence of the European Union? Shouldn't European Union work on access of ladies to abortion, because abortion is a human right? This is indicated in human rights documents of the international law. Here and now, Terry has already mentioned that, we've been trying to show and indicate that reproductive rights are associated with the rule of law. The fact that the decision was issued by the so-called Constitutional Tribunal is the rule of law question. The basic fundamental rights are also associated with the rule of law as such. So if we do not deal with that, this might be a very bad situation for the European Union as a whole. I prepared my motion for the European Commission together with Terry. We have sent a letter to the Polish authorities. There is almost over 100 signatures from EMPs from the whole parliament, from all groups apart from the one that Law and Justice belongs to. We are preparing a draft of a resolution that will be worked on at the upcoming session of the parliament. The resolution draft on the very situation that we are speaking about, the reproductive rights of ladies in Poland. And we are working on this between different party members, which makes us really happy. But the question is, what is going to happen in 5, 10, or 15 years' time? To my assessment, we are going to have a debate on the treaties. What is the basis of the European Union is, for me at least, not transport, not energy, not common agricultural policy, but human rights. I choose the European Union that is rooted in human rights, and everything apart from human rights must be subjected to human rights. You've got 1 minute left. Just to inform you, one of the Polish politicians once said, knees or death. I'm going to paraphrase this saying, human rights or death. If the European Union does not put human rights high on the ranking list, it doesn't work for human rights. And common equality policy that should be the European Union policy, quite probably the European Union ceases to exist. And to give a punchline to my presentation, to give you the operational aspect, there are many divisions in the European Union Parliament. Terry and other MPs from different countries say, you don't know what is happening in Poland. You're presenting Poland in bad light. I'm an MP, keep hearing that I'm the person that has betrayed Poland, that I'm an informer, I shouldn't be behaving like this. It has got its consequences in the social media. Many comments related to my head that should be shaved. In my assessment, if the European Commission doesn't start looking at human rights as the common policy, as it is the case of energy and agricultural policy, we are going to face a great problem with the Union as such.
Thank you very much. I just need to say clearly the name of the initiative. It's I support women. You can sign it. It's addressed directly to the President of the European Commission. If I could just add, I should have said that in the very beginning. We are about to start 16 days against the violence to women, and these 16 days will be very symbolic. It will also refer to state systemic violence against women. Every year it applies to family violence, sexual violence against women. I have prepared a speech where, as the Deputy Ombudsman, I write about what should change, about ratifying the Istanbul Convention and including the violence against women into EU catalogue of crimes at wstrzymamkobiet.pl. You can find the letter to Ursula von der Leyen and sign it. I encourage you to do so. Next week, I'm going to start to collect signatures among EMPs. And you can, of course, count on us in Poland. We will promote it. I would like to stay in Brussels. Joby, Joanna Pszczoła, artist, activist, my friend, give us a couple of words, what it's like. Pardon me interrupting you. Try to stick to 4 minutes. We will have another round of questions to discuss. Joby, turn on the mic and the floor is yours. You may see her pictures from the action on her Facebook event. You will see what she's doing in Brussels. I know you cooperate with various organizations. Kasia, thank you. Thank you. I'm also for kobiety.pl. I've signed my initiative. I've signed the letter. Thank you for the initiative. Please sign, spread. The force of the internet, of the social media is unlimited. I specialize in that. I worked as an expert of political communication for the EU. You don't know how powerful a single message is. What about 50, 100, 150? So the power is within. I have always supported women, not since today, since yesterday, since 2016. I'm a singer. I could sing it. Perhaps I will sing at the end. But in my case, it all started in Brussels. I've been living here for 17 years, but I know very well what's happening in Poland. I am a Pole. I'm in touch with the youth as a professor on daily basis in Poland, in Belgium, where I run workshop. They are equally involved. They follow our events. Since 2009, sorry, 8, my activist work started from working with FM Brussels Radio in Brussels, where I opened my first femme collective promoting women in hip hop with a niche. And then I moved from hip hop to politics. Unfortunately, autumn 2016 was personally for me a dramatic event. I have never planned or thought to be in such a situation. I was a proud Pole representing Poland in Belgium, proud to be in the EU. And it happened that on the very same day, we mobilized all together our female friends, artists, activists, ladies who work in the commission, in the parliament, in stores, and the cleaning ladies. So we were beyond any party divisions, bottom to top organization. We had the very first meeting in a cafe, and there were 50 of us, and the movement started. There was the first manifestation, the second one, hundreds of people who supported that movement, men, ladies, also LGBT people. And that wave continued. Out of that, there was this black Brussels balloon, our apolitical organization. Why Black Brussels? Because Black protest. So those black balloons that symbolize the dark clouds over not just Poland, but as we could hear, over Europe and in other countries. And the black clouds that symbolize, the black balloons that symbolize, unfortunately, dark times for women and times where others deal with our rights, while that should be unquestionably the basic law. Thank you. Thank you. We need to put a full stop or a comma, perhaps. Thank you. Now, Brussels, and we move to Dublin. We have Inga Wójcik in Dublin. Feminist activities. I need to ask you, how do you get motivation for acting? What moments in the fighting for the rights of women were crucial for you? And tell us a couple of words about the specifics of the city you work in. In Ireland, 130,000 people declare that Polish is her native language, the first language used at home. Thank you. Just like all the panelists here, Terry must leave us, best greetings. As all the panelists, I'm extremely excited to be here at this panel, listen to your perspective. I follow your activities, just like we could About motivations, as you said, it's very interesting because from one perspective, we can hear from Poland, we should not interfere because we live elsewhere. But on the other hand, we live abroad. We don't have electoral rights. We live here too short, so we are in between. But being in between is essential. That's why we are so interested in what is happening in Poland. We often forget or ignore how trans-border life we lead as immigrants in Europe. We often visit Poland. As far as abortion is concerned, we visit Poland for medical care in Poland, and any change in medical care in Poland may directly impact our life, not necessarily about abortion. So this solidarity in Poland transfers on Polish ladies abroad. We have this emotional bond. Speaking of the LGBT and transnationality, I think it's even more painful because whatever is happening in Poland, we have families, we meet at a homophobic approach. As long as we have families in Poland, we were educated there. Many of us regularly come back to Poland. I believe there is still this connection, but in Ireland, we noted quite Irish specific. When we ran dwóch group here, we saw we had problems in Ireland with access to reproductive rights. And we started to pay attention to the abortion ban or restricted reproductive rights, how they impact us in Ireland. We also have this issue of poor knowledge of English. We didn't know how to get contraceptive pills. We tried to look the other way around, that the local law is also important for us, but what is also important is, I'm sorry, I got lost. This lessons learned in one country applied in the other one. The Irish specifics, Polish specifics, and combining its specific parallelism of both countries. Until 2018, abortion was banned here. Until 1996, divorces were banned. Contraception was banned in Ireland. At the same time, in Poland, life was far more liberal. Many things were legal. So there are different lessons we can learn. So we saw that in 2018 during the referendum, then in 2016 during those black protests, both parties could learn from one another. So we exchanged experience in terms of activism and the impact of law. Sometimes it may be quite drastic, like the current proposal in Poland. We remember the Alicja Tysiąc case. We had an example like that in Ireland, where we had a pregnant girl with defected fetus, and the girl died finally because she was refused abortion. Inga, comma, we'll get back to you. I'm a timekeeper indeed. We'd like to go to France. I need to stress some things you've mentioned. Parallel reality in which you live. Wherever huge Polish representation is, Polish girls need support there, a lot of support. Moreover, Poles organize, and I'm smiling to Anya, you operate in various countries, you run different organizations to help Polish women who do not have access to legal abortion. They can use their help. Anya, can we speak of other countries? Another thing, some European countries announced to allow their law, to change their law to allow Polish ladies have abortion there. That's because we are present in those countries. We protest in those countries, so we are seen. Thank you again. Go to France. There are two our panelists, one in Strasbourg, the other one in Paris. Let's go to Agata, to Strasbourg. Tell us what it's like in your country, what is the specifics on your operation. Agata, the floor is yours. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be with such respected panelists. I need to stress that many people from cities in France were involved in the protest, and those girls, I can speak on their behalf, I'm involved in the needs of the heart. I'm a Pole, I'm related to my country. I left 70 years ago, but I'm very closely related to Poland. It's my country. I'm a European. My European values are so close to me. Women's rights are human rights, as you could hear before, and I find myself there because fighting for Polish women, we fight for all of them. I get involved because I feel I need to. We feel the pressure from the government, and I feel if I do not get involved, they will take over the entire public space. I feel I need to express my objection. Thank you, Kasia, because it's very difficult to do it on your own. It's very difficult to be against such violence on your own. But when the so-called Constitutional Tribunal proclaimed its judgment, I was broken. And Kasia, who lives in Strasbourg, wrote to me, Agata, I can't stand it, let's do something. And that was a stimulus for me, because together we can do more. Solidarity is our force, we have it. And the fact that we are here today, it shows that we are in many countries, many cities. I've been involved for many years in social matters. I used to work in various NGOs in Strasbourg, also in Brussels when I used to live for a couple of years. But I only started to work for women's rights in 2016, where I joined thanks to Terry, Gosia, and other ladies who invited me to join the Black protest, to the delegation of the Polish politicians and activists during the parliament session about what was happening in Poland. Later on, I co-organized many protests in Strasbourg, also on the 25th anniversary of Poland joining the European Council, the Council of Europe, when President Duda arrived, because Strasbourg is the seat of many European institutions that have nothing to do with the European Union. I mean here the Council of Europe and the European Human Rights Court, and President Duda arrived there to celebrate Poland's presence in the Council of Europe. At the same time, his government was breaking the law, these rights. So I was there at that building with its banner saying Black protest, saying just put Polish presence into the context of human rights, European context. I need to stress that Strasbourg is not an easy place to be active for activists. I would like to remove this charm. It is a lovely city, beautiful, calm. I hope Sylwia will agree. It's got lots of advantages, but it's not like Brussels. It's not second capital of Europe. It's not as lively. It's a small, lovely city where it's difficult to run such activities. It has changed a bit later after this mailing voting, when we sent our votes together to Paris. And based on those contacts, we managed to create a group mainly of girls who care for human rights, women's rights. We prepared manifestations. A manifestation that was supposed to take place on the 31st of October. Due to the lockdown, it was cancelled. So the only way to show our protest was to arrange a small illegal manifestation in the city center and before the Polish representative office. Half a minute for you. And we highlighted the European aspect. We stressed that Poland, as a member of the Council of Europe and other European institutions, is obliged to follow human rights while it was breaking it. In our declaration before the Permanent Representative Office, we stressed that the Article 2 of European human rights says about the right to live. The next one bans torture. The next one protects human and family life. And the decision of the so-called Constitution Tribunal breaks those laws, and that aspect we try to highlight during our manifestation. In France, as I told you, there were plenty of manifestations. There was Lyon, Marseille, Paris, and if there is any positive result of this attack on our freedom, is that cooperation. We know each other. I met many nice, perfect girls from various European countries, and the fact that we know what is happening, we exchange experience, is our power, our strength. Let's continue.
This is our power and our experience, the experience of all of us, the legal language that we are speaking about, and Sylwii Spurek speaks a lot about, because she's been using the language. It's difficult to understand for the people who either are not able to focus on the legal aspects or do something different. Speaking about abortion and feminism was also difficult in Poland. We had to learn how to speak about it in Poland, that we can refer to ourselves feminists and feminism is okay. It took us some time. And second of all, how to explain this Polish reality that is pretty complex to those living in France or Ireland, Belgium, how to talk to the people who are not Poles. Joanna Lesse, what's your perspective? We are staying in France, now speaking about Paris. Would you please unmute your microphone, put the microphone on. Let me seize this opportunity. You can see the images of our panelists at the Feminist event, International Panel. Come and see what they do on a day-to-day basis. Can you hear me now? I'm really pleased to be with you. You are just wonderful. This is quite a rigorous time slot that we are enjoying now. I'll be using my sheet of paper to read out and tell you what we do about. I'm the oldest immigrant amongst all of you. There's been dozens of years of immigration behind us. So I'm going to give you a bird's eye view over the years I'm speaking about. Which makes it possible to compare the two countries, the two homelands of mine. I came to France from behind the Iron Curtain a few months after March of 38. Poland was not politically free at that time, but us, the young girls from cities, there's some kind of freedom of actions. Abortion was free of charge, available in hospitals. I came to the capital of France, the city of lights, of historical continuity, and the capital city of arts, but it was the ongoing contestation, alternative University of Vincennes, number 8.
I to był szok, bo
in Vincennes Forest, and it was quite a shock because it was freedom, politics, social revolution, ladies' movement, psychoanalysis. However, the lecturers were mainly men. However, there were lots of ladies' meetings at that time. So I learned about the manifest of 443 of, well, the translation of the word from French into English would be sluts. So it was the idea that was created by Kabi, who was a cartoon drawer who worked in Charlie Hebdo, but he was murdered in this terrorist act against the newspaper in 2015. This is a very sad story. Ladies took over the name. Simone de Beauvoir was very proud calling herself a slut. Sluts was breakthrough in public opinion in France because they paved the way to abortion rights that were created by Simone Weil in 1975. It was my first year in France. Shame to say that it's been so long. They were using bad words, and today in Poland we are discussing the abuse of the words like fuck, law and justice. Oh, I said this. I became familiar with French conservatism. The paradox of the French Revolution country when the continuity is intervened with rupture. It's been happening a lot in the meantime in Poland. There's been a kind of rupture in Poland post 1989. Poland has kind of attracted people. It has never stopped attracting me, and everything was supposed to be better over that time. I'm focusing on my professional career. I opened up my architectural studio. I have children. I raise my children. But Poland is like friends from your early childhoods. You haven't met for long. A shock in 2004. For a short period of time, I saw the absolutely different image of the country that I knew less from my childhood or young years. Then a terrible shock of 2016. This is where we started the ADDP Association. This is the Association to Fight for Democracy in Poland. We didn't expect that we could be facing something of this kind that we have to face for Poland again. We have organized manifestations, visits of people from Poland, network of contacts with people, partners, organizations, and so on and so forth, those that originate in France. But I hoped that this would pass quick, boiled to nothing, which was pretty painful. But this 4-year period made it possible for me to see the true image of Poland, the Poland as it is, and I've learned a lot. And I need to say that Poland has been a great lab full of contradictions for all of us here in France and in Europe. As the nature of human is, this is composed of the good things and bad things. There is this kind of cemented backwarded part and ecological city attitudes on the other hand. There are ladies and young men, young people recently have joined the movement. So it is because of Poland we have been creating the new Europe. We have been building the Europe anew because it has already happened once with the help of Poland and other countries of the Central European Union. Europe has changed its face in the 90s. Now, there have been procedures, as Terry was speaking about, Sylwia was speaking about. Europe is better adjusted to be this great unity. We can cooperate together. There is transnationalism that is coming into being, which is very interesting. We have our contribution here. We have bonds between those living abroad. The solidarity is being developed on the European laws. Terry, Krystyna Zacharopoulou, was speaking at our Paris manifestation because, well, I didn't prepare myself to speak about manifestation in Paris because I was going to present you pictures, but it was the 25th of October that we had the big manifestation, and Krysula came, and she and other female politicians joined in. French MPs were also interested, like Sandro Gozzi, who sent message to Polish ladies and Poles that hit the street. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your speech. It's really outstanding and flamboyant what you're doing. Anna, would you please tell us about Berlin? What do you focus on? What have we concentrated on in Berlin? Lots of Poles live there. Hello and welcome. Thank you very much for inviting me. What I'm going to speak about is a presentation of what we do. Some kind of personal note for the beginning, because you have given your information about your motives and being activists for Poland. My heart is for Poland. I love Poland. Poland does not love me. You've got family, you've got friends in Poland. It comes as a strange thing to me that when we have elections, be it the European Parliament elections or Polish presidential elections, all of a sudden, Polish for us, there is a network or a mechanism of social media activism in Poland. So we no longer need to work in Poland, live in Poland in order to be active participants in the actions in Poland. You can use Facebook for this purpose. These activist groups can hear the arguments. Why do you barge in? Do not organize lives here in Poland. The same opinion for a number of years. It's becoming boring. It's like the same old record. I've got different answers to that. You need to have some broader perspective. People don't realize or don't want to realize that if law and justice make a particular decision in Poland, they introduce some kind of act, this act may have an impact not only on Poles, Polish diaspora and others. Green Deal is an example. If Polish law and justice love coal, Poland is the stink maker for whole Europe and other countries. So we've got the right to work for Poland. This is an internal duty of us. Artists have the right to speak about difficult things, to air out our opinion. This is a kind of internal vocation of ours, because art is the conscience of the general public. I cannot speak on behalf of all the women. I'm an artist, an architect by education, and I'm a writer myself, and I work with RESs. So this is my professional life, apart from activism, the first or the second life, so to speak. I started in 2016 calling up Dwóch Berlin group. That was the moment. This is how we've been operating until now. We've got lots of artistic activities on board because this is pretty interesting. Some people do love art, and Berlin is the city because every day there's a kind of demonstration in the city. That's the city as it is. Something is happening day in, day out. It doesn't mean that we have to compete with the agenda of other demonstrations. We offer something different. Like in Germany, we have bad press about Polish politics, which is quite right, and quite good press about Polish art. We use artistic tools, which is a differentiating factor when composed with other groups and demonstrations in Berlin. And on top of that, why not? What have we done? We started in 2016. That was the Black Protest. That was the tipping point. Lots of people came in. The energy that was brought over from Poland, I call it a critical mass, or critical potential. You can feel it. You are the organizer, co-organizer of the protest. You can feel it. You can recognize it with your third eye. So you feel the wave coming. All you need to do is to provide a channel for this wave, place for it to explode. That was the case in 2016. You know the story back then. Quite a similar situation when it comes to Julia Przyłębska and Constitutional Tribunal. Today, we are going to finish the third bloody week. So for 3 weeks, we've been organizing demonstrations, not every day, but we've got a whole agenda like a festival. So day in, day out, we offer different participation forms in different kind of activities and protests, because Polish diaspora in Berlin is big. Not only do we do it for Poles, but Berliners too, for everybody who's here. We can either go on a walk go for a walk in the embassy so that everybody is there, or classical demonstration under the Brandenburg Gate, or black walks, we listen to a podcast or techno procession, something completely different, something that enjoys international support, because we are members of different feminist networks, be it the German ones or the international migrants ones. We've enjoyed great support. We have cooperated with other countries. We have cooperated with Ireland, Irish migrants here in Berlin. We have supported one another. We've been doing it for a long time. Ireland has won its right, therefore we enjoy their support. You've got 1 minute to finish. Oh, gosh. And in more general terms, I'm going to tell you that we keep acting. It's our dream to have abortion available all over Europe, being legal, safe, free of charge. We're not speaking about Poland. It's not bed of roses in Germany. 3 cases in Germany, we can have legal abortion, and this is the penal code that regulates the access to abortion. We also fight for this in Germany, for the 2 paragraphs to be crossed out, and we work despite the borders. Thank you very much, Dziewuchy Berlin, for allowing me, the representative of Łódź Dziewuchy, to be a part of your group, to be the spirit of Róża Luxemburg, and the new means of expression you've been using. It's especially important for me. Yes, thank you very much. Listen up. We have finished the first round, and we have 10 minutes or 12 minutes for the last round. I'd like all of you to have your say and tell us how you imagine cooperation, relations of political and activist milieus between Poland, Europe, Polish diaspora. Please tell us, try to squeeze in 2-minute slot. I'm scribbling it down, and I'd like to create a kind of postulates list, because we've been speaking about things today, but we act on daily basis. So I'd like to translate the words into acts further on. Let us start with Dr. Sylwia Spurek. Would you please tell us how you imagine this cooperation?
Ja sobie wyobrażam tę
I
współpracę.
see it from the perspective of activists rather than politicians. So I keep repeating do's and don'ts about politicians: support, involvement, transparency, consultations. That is how I'm trying to work with NGOs, activists. Every month I send information about what I've done, what actions I've taken, but also about my plans, options to join, what questions to the organizations, what they think of my ideas. So I keep consulting my actions. I continuously publicly consult my activities. I keep informing, and as an expert, I wish each and every politician works openly and transparently. And no matter where we are, the don'ts for politicians would be not to take over actions by activists, which I could see being myself an activist, which I still can see, and which no politician should ever do. I also think that everybody who gets involved, those who are feminists, it helps working above any divisions, acting together, politicians and activists. If we think we are feminists, if all that injustice is for us unacceptable and we want to change it so that no one is discriminated against, oppressed due to their gender, sexual orientation, ethnic origin, national origin, also as a vegan, I say the species, then we have so much in common, we can do everything. Just one more word. How do you mean taking over the activist space by politicians? Give us an example, please. A very simple one. A demonstration organized by activists. The first speaker is a politician who has done not much for the women's rights, moreover, supported the so-called abortion compromise, and now all of a sudden they want to be the face of the abortion is okay movement. Thank you. That's a good example. Joby, how do you imagine this cooperation? Politicians, activists, Polish diaspora. Sylwia, I sign under all your words. On the other hand, from the point of view of me as an activist, not being a member of any organization whatsoever, our organization is neither NGO or an organization that is formal. For me, transparency and solidarity in movement should be inclusive. Not only the organizations, 3, 4, 5 organizations that group together, but we should also include individuals or other groups that not necessarily form an organization, so that these activities are stronger. Obviously, joint action, coordination is the strength for us. Sometimes we see decentralization, we see small new association that builds up and makes its own manifestation, but they do not combine with others that would give us more, that would give more of us. On Wednesday, we had this excellent, strong demonstration with several hundred people. These are very symbolic actions, but Terry was there and she spoke. For us, the activists, from my perspective, it's empowering. For me, I'd love to see more involved politicians, but truly involved, truly engaged, not just taking over the mic and saying a couple of words, who actively cooperate with us and to join our forces more so that they can support us, come, show, but also distribute information about our manifestations in their newsletters, because they have enormous coverage and thousands. Thank you. Inga.
Super, zgadzam się absolutnie ze wszystkim,
I
szczególnie
fully agree with all what has been said, especially support from politicians without any additional political agenda, just letting the activities speak. Polish diaspora and Poland cooperations. We have great experience. I'm grateful for that from our members from Łódzkie Dziewuchy. I believe that cooperation is very important. Both parties need each other. They can build life together. On the one hand, we care to hear what's happening in Poland, what are the needs we not always know, every single thing being so far away. And we could input to that. It's not just that we are away. We have experience from the countries we live in. We can access politicians in our countries, building together with activists in other countries. It could be great symbiosis where values of each party are appreciated. So mutual cooperation, being in touch, not being two separate planets, but part of the same jigsaw puzzle. Franz, Agata, Joanna, your perspective for the cooperation. Fully agree with what we've heard, and I see it that we should expand the network of contacts in France, which started on the recent elections through the protest, so that Paris, Strasburg, Lyon, Bordeaux, and other places could work synchronically. But I know there is Eva there who would like to start operations in Nantes. So we should synchronize our operations more here in France. On the European level, it's what you do, Gosia, because you want to bring us together and make our actions joint, synchronic. I wish we could inform the public in France about what is happening in Poland, the protests happening in Poland and in France, so that to show that we are present in the public space. In Strasbourg, we started our database for contacts with media, government authorities, etc. And everybody should have access to that database. So, like, for instance, all French girls in France could have access to contacts on local, regional, and state level. We have started to build that database. Agata worked with me, Berenika helped me to write a media release. So there are plenty of options, like a petition of artists in France. So more synchronization and sharing contacts. Joanna, would you add? Obviously, and a lot. First of all, I want to say Great Berlin. I've known Anna from the internet, and the first time I see you live, you have it better because your language barrier is smaller. Poland has become much Anglophonic, so is the world. And we are trying, following Agata's words, we are trying to influence public opinion in France. So we are trying to work in French. It's quite a wall for us compared to the international environment. And I want to attract your attention to that in other English-speaking countries, or people who work in Brussels in English, so that you make some effort to include us, listen to us. Agata, to answering you, we are doing that. We have various measures. I also want to say that the network of contacts with Poles abroad is important. Obviously, we work best with ladies, Belgium, Germany, a bit of the UK. And I must say that in Belgium, apart from what GB is representing, there is a group who is related to the Congress of Women, and they are very active. They group around Agata Araszkiewicz, but not only. Agata has been invited to us. Agata, please be finishing. So, but I said that the Congress that wants to turn into International Congress of Women, and that's a great initiative. We are all for it. Yes, we know the Congress. Yes. If we only could, we would have more of us, but we meet in the streets during actions, not just only on the Zoom. Thank you very much. Last but not least, Anna Krenz. How do you see that cooperation, your key postulate? I need to close quickly. I would dream that most politicians, just like Ms. Spurek, inform the activists about the operations and find options to cooperate, but concrete actions, that you do that, not just talking. We know, as we are here, but I don't know that everybody knows it, that activism is exhausting. It's a hobby in our free time. Let us be realistic. It costs us our health, energy, time, money, or our children time. It would be excellent if it could be financed by the EU. I don't know how, but if we want to have civic society, it's not by exploiting activists who work for free so that we have more opportunities, then we will do better things. And I don't know, The activist burnout is a syndrome after such bloody weeks like we've just had. But I would dream of more precise possibilities to cooperate with politicians. We have them in Berlin. That's more difficult in Poland, just if you know personally somebody. What else? More precise activities. It's interesting how politicians or political parties and activists, how they work together. I understand that for a politician, being an activist, take a picture in the street is sexy, but the point is not to take it over. But these two existences are separate. They should exist one by one, not to eat each other. And finally, I dream of solidarity, not ours here in Germany, in Berlin, or European. I dream of solidarity with Poland, not unilateral. We are the vote of Polish women. We make their life public. It would be okay if we have some action. It would be great if we have some interests in Poland, perhaps a joint action. So mutual relation, let us be equal sisters. And finally, in that feminism, I don't know how it's about you, but feminism is different. There are different trends. They've been different for 150 years. It's good because it generates something, some theories, some thoughts. It's excellent unless it gets personal. So I wish all of us, as we are here, we see each other, that our work is more effective. We are less tired. We feel more satisfaction of what we do because activism is a heavy living. Let's be strong in Poland and abroad because we will not give up. We will keep hitting the streets. Thank you very much. I see all of you. Thank you again.
Sylwia Spurek, Joanna Laser, Agata Delatur, Inga Wójcik, Anna Kręcka, Joanna Pszczoła i ja, skromna dziewucha łódzka Małgorzata.
And me, dziewucha łódzka. Thank you very much. I need to imagine all these viewers of us on the Facebook, on Zoom. I believe this discussion has been interesting for you. It's very difficult to run it on Zoom. I can see the audience. I just see likes and hearts from people. Please write to us. You comment during the live broadcast. Write in Polish, English. Everybody will be able to see that. Show that panel to your friends in various countries. How to be in touch with us? Try Łódzkie Dziewuchy or International Power Panel. I'll be there. I'll be observing what is happening. I'd like to thank the technical support. You are great. You allowed us to, you gave us extra 9 minutes. I wish everybody nice evening and see you soon live. Bye. Bye bye.
Do widzenia. Ja myślę, że